means something is difficult or challenging. So this puzzle is tough. Pellets means small, tiny balls of something. These are pellets of, do you remember what this is called? Hail. That's right. Predict means to guess what's going to happen. So weatherman predicts the weather. Clings means something sticks to something else. So her hair clings to this balloon. Funnel is a cylinder type thing that has bigger at the top and smaller at the bottom. So she's using this funnel to get the water out from the sand. A type of funnel cloud is called a tornado. Occur, that means something happens. So an eclipse occurs every once in a while. Excess means extra, so they're cutting the excess off of this pie crust. And damage means something is hurt, so a hurricane damaged this house by the ocean. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about cause and effect. We've talked about it a little bit before. It's a way that authors, writers, organize their writing, their stories. So informational text. Remember, Wild Weather is an informational text. It's a narrative informational text because it's told like a story, right? But it still taught us about all kind of weather. It has a structure, type of organization that fits the topic and the author's purpose. Well, the reason why the author wrote Wild Weather was to teach us about weather, not to talk about a duck who lost his wife. Although that was part of the story, the main reason the author wrote it was to teach us about weather. Text organized by cause and effects describe how one thing leads to another. So when you have a cause, it makes something happen. So why something happens makes it happen. So if it rains a lot, the cause is it rains a lot, then flowers grow. That's the effect, right? If it rains a lot, flowers will grow. Cause and effect. If you broke your mom's favorite thing in the house, then that's the cause, and the effect would be you'd be in trouble, right? Okay. If it's raining outside, you might wear a raincoat. So it's raining outside, so the effect is you wear a raincoat. So something happens, the cause, makes you do something else or makes something else happen, which is the effect. So we're going to be talking about causes and effect in this story. So some cause and effect clue words are so, it rained a lot, so the flowers grew. Because, and usually because the effects come first. The flowers grew because it rained a lot. Or since it rained a lot, the flowers grew. If it rains a lot, then the flowers will grow. As a result of the rain, the flowers grew in the garden. So become, so, since, if, then, and as a result are clue words for cause and effect. So today we're going to read through our story one more time, and we're going to talk about cause and effect. So get out your books and turn to our Wild Weather. And it's on page 103. We're going to talk about cause and effect as we go through here. High up along a mountain trail, a hiker sat and folded an origami bird. "It sure is sunny," she said. As she held the bird high, a gust of wind lifted the paper. The bird began to fly. Whoa, how did it get so windy? Just then the bird spotted a duck flying nearby. "Hey there, what's your name?" The bird remembered the hiker had said Sunny. "Sunny, I think." "I'm Chuck. Nice to meet you, Sunny. Say, I've got a real problem. My wife Natasha is missing. We were trying to fly away from here." "Why do you want to leave?" Sunny asked. "The mountain valley looked very nice enough. Aren't you a bird? Most birds fly south before winter. This wind is making flying tough. Where did all this wind come from?" "It's simple," he said. "The sun heats the land, making the air above it warm. The warm air rises, cool air rushes to take the place of the warm air, and because Earth spins, wind can come from any direction. So what causes the warm air to rise?" What causes the warm air to go up? They told us in here. What causes it, Heather? No? What causes the warm air to go up, Isaiah? Nope, that's not what he said. What makes the warm air? What makes it go up? What makes the warm air rise? What makes the air warm? Place? The sun. The sun heats the land, making the air above it warm. The warm air rises. The cool air doesn't push it up. The warm air rises and the cool air rushes in and takes its place. So the cold air does not cause it to move up. It already moves up on its own from the sun heating the land, causing the air above the land to get warm. So what happens because the air moves up? Now we already kind of said it. What happens when the air moves up? What does it cause to happen next? Kate? No? What happens when the warm air goes up? Xavier? Yes, the cold air comes in and takes its place. So the effect is, the cause is the warm air goes up. The effect is the cold air comes in and takes its place. And why can wind come from any direction? What causes the wind to come from any direction? If you're not sure, read it. It tells us. The earth spins. That's what makes it come from any direction. So, do you think the wind carried Natasha away? Sunny asked. I hope not, Chuck cried. She was right next to me, and then she disappeared. A drop of water struck Sunny's wing. Just what we need. It's raining. Fly underneath me, Sunny. I don't think wet paper's good for flying. Clouds and rain? How did they get here? Check out this water cycle chart. It explains how clouds form and rain falls. Wow, that's pretty simple, really. So, gas rises and cools and turns into water droplets. So the sun heats the water on the ground and turns it into gas, right? And then that warms it up and the gas rises and it cools and it turns into water droplets. The water droplets come together to form a cloud. And then when the water droplets combine and fall as rain, they fall as rain when it gets too heavy. So the sun heats up water on the ground. That's the cause. What's the effect? When the sun heats up water on the ground, what happens to the water? What happens to the water when the sun heats the ground? It turns into what? What does it turn into, Emma? Gas. That's right. So the cause, because the sun heats up the ground, the water turns into gas. Can we see it? No. No, it's invisible gas because it's so tiny we can't see it. So rain is just a bunch of tiny droplets, Sunny said. That doesn't seem so bad. Normal rainstorms are fine, but thunderstorms can make lightning and heavy rain. When too much rain falls all at once, a flood can form. Whoa. Hang on, Chuck yelled. Hail is falling. Hail, Sunny chirped. What's that? Sometimes storm clouds called cumulonimbus, remember those are the big, tall ones we learned about science? Clouds form. Water droplets in the highest part of the cloud bounce around and freeze into tiny pellets, Chuck said. Then the pellets hit the water droplets and the little water droplets freeze to them and the hail gets bigger. And once the hail is too heavy, it falls, Sunny asked. You got it, Chuck shouted. Come on, let's head for the woods. Now, let's think about some more cause and effects. What happens when heavy rains fall at once? When a bunch of rain falls all at once, what's the effect? What's the effect, Gracie?
It turns into hail.
No, not always. When rain comes down all at once, what can happen? Floods happen. That's what it says here. When too much rain falls at once, a flood can form. That's when we got to be careful where we drive because the water might be over the road. Okay, what about ice pellets hit water droplets in the cloud? What comes down when ice pellets hit water in the cloud? What comes down, Chase? Hail. Hail gets heavy and falls out of the cloud. Very good. Isn't there any way to know when the weather will get wild? There is. Meteorologists study and predict weather. They use tools to help them. We're going to learn about all those tools today, or some of the tools. Weather tools, Sunny asked, like what? They have instruments to measure wind speed and direction. That's what an anemometer is. And radar, right here, it's a picture, to track rain and thunderstorms. Meteorologists even use satellites in outer space to track how and where the clouds move. So the cause is meteorologists have special instruments and radar. So what can they do with all those special instruments and the radar? What can meteorologists do? What can meteorologists do with all those tools? Yes, they can predict what the weather's going to be. They can predict bad weather. They can tell us if bad weather might happen. Sonny shivered. His papery body was growing cold. Natasha is lost, and it will snow any day now, Chuck quacked sadly. So what's the deal with snow? It's a bit different than hail. The water vapor turns into an ice crystal. The ice crystal clings to other crystals and forms a snowflake. That doesn't sound so bad, Sonny said. If the ground and air are cold enough, so both the ground and the air have to be cold. The snowflakes pile up and cover the ground, Chuck quacked. The lakes freeze and it's tough for birds like us to find food. Oh, so that's why you fly south. So what type of wild weather is Sonny asking about here? What is he asking about, Chase? Snowy weather. What does Chuck say is the cause of snowflakes forming? What causes snowflakes to form? All right, the same people keep out and put up their hands. What causes snowflakes to form, Sydney? The gas from the water turns into what? Ice what? Not just ice what? Not snow yet. The water vapor turns into what, Isaiah? Ice crystals. And then a bunch of ice crystals stick together to form a snowflake. That's a lot of work for all those snowflakes. So what happens if the ground is cold and the air is cold? What happens if both the ground and the air is cold, Kinsler? If both the ground is cold and the air is cold and it snows, what happens? Heather? Right, it'll pile up, right? Yeah, it'll pile up. So, a couple weeks ago it snowed a little bit here. But did it stick to the ground?
No.
No, it stuck a little bit to some of the grass. So the grass was a little colder than like the streets. But it didn't stick around very long, right? That's because the ground was not cold enough. If the ground was cold, we would have got a lot of snow. Not a blizzard or anything, but we would have had an inch or so there of snow. But it just wasn't cold enough. I'm not flying south without any wife. Natasha, Chuck quacked. Where are you? How's the weather down south? It's much warmer, but the weather can get wild there too. What do you mean? Sonny asked. Heat is measured in temperature, Chuck explained. When the air is hot, the temperature is high. A low temperature means it's cool. That makes sense, Sonny said. Too much heat can hurt people, plants, even animals, Chuck quacked. During a heat wave, the temperature and humidity stay high for 2 or more days. I wouldn't want to be stuck in one of those, Sonny said. So where was the worst heat wave on record? That would be down under. The temperature in Marble Bar, Australia was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius for 160 days in a row in 1923. Hot days, mate. So where is Natasha? She couldn't have just disappeared. What happened to those trees? A tornado came through here years ago, Chuck said. What's a tornado? Sonny asked. It's a funnel of wind that forms in the sky and wrecks what it touches on the ground, Chuck said. Tornadoes form during a thunderstorm. They are more likely to occur over flat land. But how? Sonny asked. When the wind in a storm changes direction, increases speed, and rises, it makes the air below it spin. Rising air pushes the spinning column of air downward until it's vertical. The spinning funnel of air speeds up, forming a tornado. We're going to skip that bottom part and go to the next page. I had no idea weather could be so scary, Sonny said. That's nothing. My cousin Frank almost got caught in a hurricane once. A hurricane? I'm afraid to ask. A hurricane forms in summer or fall, Chuck said. It forms over an ocean and moves toward land. Does it make lots of wind like a tornado? Asked Sonny. Yes, strong winds rotate around the eye of the storm, said Chuck. The spinning storm picks up energy from the warmth of the ocean. When it hits land, high winds and heavy rain damage the buildings.